Hey guys, what's up? I'm Speo with the Voice of Reason, and welcome to the second part in my glitch up track analysis series, where I'll go over some of the bass patches I put together for the drop on my track Penguin. But first up, let me just give you a quick little tip. Putting a reversed kick sample right in front of the drop can really help adding to the impact of it. So all you have to do is hit File, Import Audio File, and then chuck in a basic kick sample right into the sequencer. Hit right click on the clip and then just reverse it and chuck it right in before the drop, and that can really help adding to the impact of it. But now let's take a look at the bass patches. So first up, we got our first bass right here. This bass is a basic Reese bass patch that's just there to put an accent on the first hit of each bar, and back here we've also got some melodies. But it's a quite simple patch actually, and I'm using an antidote, an edge red, and a couple of equalizers and a reverb for this patch. So as you can see, I've got two rack extensions here, but you can probably get a very similar sound by using the inbuilt equipment. This antidote, for example, is just a basic 12 saw patch with an sub oscillator, and that's all there is to the oscillator section. So what you can do if you wanted a similar sound and were using a Maelstrom, for example, you could just chuck in a sawtooth times 16 wavetable and a basic single saw 1 octave beneath that one to get a very similar re-spacey kind of sound. The reason why I used an antidote though is because of the phaser down here. I'm using this phaser to add a little bit more character to the sound. And I really like the sound of it. You could probably also use the inbuilt phaser that comes within Reason, but I just think it's a little weak. I like the sound of the phaser on the antidote better. But if you do like the sound of the inbuilt Reason phaser, then please go ahead and use it. I just really like the phaser on the antidote. The settings on this phaser are the frequency is at 145 Hz, and the feedback is at 35%, and the dry wet at 86%. The rest is just basic settings. And this whole thing then runs into the edge red filter, which is my notch filter in this case. And the notch filter is modulated by the onboard envelope on the edge red, which is triggered by the filter envelope from the antidote. So it sounds complicated, but it really isn't. All that I did was I took the filter envelope CV output of the antidote and routed it into the gate input of the edge red. And this way, every time I hit a key on the antidote, the little envelope down here is triggered by the antidote. And what I did then was I gave this envelope some attack and then routed it with an amount of minus 56% to the notch filter frequency, which is at 5 kHz. This notch filter is a 4-pole notch filter, by the way, the Japan mode. What this edge red also does is just some basic shredding of this whole thing. So the shaper type is at shred and the drive is at 0.33 decibel, which just adds a little bit more character to the sound. Next up, we've got two equalizers. This one is just responsible for getting rid of some of the ringers in the midsection. And this other one just gets rid of the very low lows, which are then replaced with the sub bass, which is right here. A very simple sub bass patch, just a basic sine wave and an equalizer to get rid of the frequencies below 30 Hz, which you can't hear anyway. And then to route things off on the first bass, on the Reese bass, we've got a little reverb right here with very, very low settings. So the dry wet is at 8 and the decay is at 13, just to route things off. Okay, so much for the Reese bass in this track. Next up, we've got the second bass. The second bass is the kind of metallic clonk that is really defining for this track, and I'm actually quite happy with how it turned out. So let's take a look at it. I'm using Thor for this patch again, basically because of the PPG27 formant wavetable on this wavetable oscillator, which sounds totally awesome. If you put the position all the way up to 127, it gets a really nice metallic kind of sound. It's on octave 2, by the way. And this runs into a filter with the frequency down at 96.3 Hz. It's an 18 dB low pass ladder filter. and it's at, as I said, at 96.3 Hertz with the envelope amount up at 103, and the filter envelope has a decay of 500 milliseconds, so a very short decay. And these settings lead to this nice clonky sound. So the second oscillator is an analog sawtooth oscillator at octave 5 with the semi up at 8. So it's really detuned, and the fine tune is at -21. So it's really detuned, but what I did is I hit the sync button right here that syncs the second oscillator to the first, and that leads to this nice kind of higher pitched metallic sound. I also nudged the balance in the mixer a little bit towards the second oscillator to put an accent on this higher metallic sound. And then I used the third oscillator, which is also a sawtooth analog oscillator at octave 2, just to fill out the bass a little bit, to give it a little bit more body. Yeah, and on the Thor I also turn on the chorus just to give it some more stereo width. And that's pretty much all that I did on the Thor. Next up, we've got a basic Scream 4 distortion unit. That means it's at tape mode with the damage at 64, the speed all the way up, and the compression at about 30. Then I also activated the cut to get rid of some mids, just with an amount of -11, and the high is at 26, so really boosted. The next couple of equalizers just get rid of some ringers. So as you can see, I've got one at 250 Hertz, one at 1.3 kilohertz, another one at 9 kilohertz, which is a very high kind of hissing sound, and another one at 663 Hertz. And then yet another one at 10 kilohertz, which is even more hissing. And then just parameter 2 at 39 Hertz to get rid of some very, very low lows. And then the reverb unit, which is quite interesting because without it, this would sound pretty lame. So on this patch, the reverb really does a lot to have it a characteristic kind of sound. So it's a room algorithm, and the room shape is the second one. That's room shape 2. With the decay at 25, the damp at 83, and the dry wet at 22. And last but not least, we have a compressor right here to put an accent on the first transient. So the attack is all the way up, the release is all the way down, and the ratio is at 19.2 to 1, the threshold at -28 dB. And this just kind of makes it pop a little bit more. Kind of mild settings, but I think the effect is audible nonetheless. And that's all there is to the clonky kind of metallic bass. Okay, this has been the second part of the glitch track analysis series. I hope you'll join me in part 3, where we'll take a look at the remaining synths in the drop of Penguin. And I'm actually planning a fourth part as well, where I'll go over some of the percussions, settings, and probably some of the shuffling that I've done. Okay, anyhow, I hope this tutorial was useful in some way or the other, and you have a nice day. Cheers, see you next time. My name's Speo, this was the Voice of Reason. Have a good one, or whatever you're having.